Hi guys, how are you? As promised, I'm going to make this video about etymology today. So a few weeks ago, I believe, I made some video, YouTube short series about words that European words that comes from European languages, and where most those words agree on the root of the word. Sometimes we have a language that uses a completely different word, and I thought this was actually interesting. And I've got a lot of comments telling me that, well, actually those are different language families. One is Germanic, one comes from a Roman language. And actually what I was aiming at when I made this video, even though I know those comments are true, and that speak in terms of recent language families, those comments are true. However, my goal when I made those videos was to compare words that come from what we call PIE. So today we're going to discuss about etymology, and I will give you also an example on how words came to become the words that we know today. Okay, so stick with me. It's going to be a long video, I think, but I try to do my best to give you as much information as I know. So in terms of etymology, I want to say first that I love etymology. This is I'm very knowledgeable about. One of my major was archaeology, and when I studied archaeology, I also studied etymology. I remember during university, my teacher was always telling us, let's go dig some churches, let's go dig some Roman churches, and I was more interested in digging words than actual churches. So I've always been fascinated by words and where they come from. So earlier I mentioned PIE. So what is PIE? So PIE means Proto-Indo-European, and it's not just a single ancestor language. It is the common source of an entire superfamily of languages. It's one of the largest and best studied in the world. When I say reconstructed language, it means that we don't actually know the exact language, but this language was actually guessed by experts who have studied how the different words have evolved in the different family branches, and they have made some assumptions that this is probably how the word originated in PIE. So PIE means Proto-Indo-European. It's a reconstructed prehistoric language. There are no written records. It was spoken roughly around 4500 to 2500 BCE. It was probably located in the Pontic-Caspian steppe, which is today's Ukraine and southern Russia. And from PIE, multiple branches split as populations migrated. So I'm going to talk about the different language families that actually originated from PIE. So interestingly speaking, when we say Proto-Indo-European, we mean that it's not only languages that are European, but also some languages that are Indian. So the first family branch is Indo-Iranian, and those are the populations who migrated to South and Central Asia. And this is the largest branch by number of speakers. And we have sub-branches like Indo-Aryan, which gave Sanskrit, and Sanskrit gave Hindi, Bengali, Marathi. We also have Iranian that derived from that sub-branch. This was Avestan, and then it became Persian, the Persian we know now, Farsi, Kurdish, Pashto, etc. Then we had the Hellenic family. So those are the people who migrated to Greece. This is essentially Greek alone, but it is across many languages. So we have the Mycenaean, Classical, Greek, Koine, and then Modern Greek. The third branch is Italic. So this is the populations who migrated to Italy and Western Europe after the Roman conquest. This gave the Latin language families that gave birth to all the Romance languages we know: French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian. And then we had the Germanic language family. The Germanic language family was for the population who migrated to Northern Europe. And it was divided in sub-branches like West Germanic, which gave English, German, and Dutch. North Germanic, which gave Swedish, Danish, Norwegian. And we also had the East Germanic branch, which is actually extinct. And this gave birth to a language that does not exist anymore, which is Gothic. And then came the Celtic branches for Western Europe. So this was divided into two branches: Insular Celtic, which gave birth to Irish, Scottish Gaelic, Welsh and Breton in France, and Continental Celtic, which is actually extinct, and this gave birth to Gaulish, which is the Celtic language that was spoken in France before France became the country we know now. Then we have the Balto-Slavic branch, which is the language spoken by the populations that migrated to Eastern Europe, which was divided into Baltic and Slavic. So Slavic gave birth to, for instance, Russian, but also Polish, Czech, and Serbian. And then we had also another branch, which is Anatolian, which is an extinct branch. This was the language of the populations who migrated to ancient Turkey. We have the Hittite, the Luwian. This was split very early from PIE, but it preserved archaic features. We also had the Tocharian branch, which became extant later. This was actually interestingly, this was a language spoken by a population who migrated to Western China. We had the Armenian branch, which still exists this is the language of the people who migrated to Caucasus. It became its own dependent branch, and it was heavily influenced by its neighbor, but it's still clearly Indo-European. And we also had Albanian, which is a standalone branch, which was the language of the populations who migrated into the Balkans, and they gave birth to the modern Albanians that we do now. So we also have other languages in Europe, of course, but those come from different families that are often confused with PIE, but they are actually not PIE. I'm talking about Basque. Basque is a very unique language. Nobody knows where I come from. We have the Uralic languages that gave birth to Finnish and Hungarian. So the language spoken in Hungary actually does not come from PIE. Turkish language comes from Turkic, like Turkish and Kazakh. They come from the Turkic language family. And yeah, that's it for the languages spoken in Europe. So as you can see, most of the languages we have in Europe actually comes from the same language family. So how did words become words? So this is one of those deceptively simple questions that actually digs into one of the deepest mysteries in linguistics, and we don't have a complete answer, but we do know quite a bit. So words didn't actually start as words. So the very first humans didn't start off with a dictionary. Early communication was probably a mix of gestures. They were pointing or miming actions, emotional vocalizations like cries or laughters, growls or sighs, imitations of sounds, which are called onomatopoeia, like imitating an animal's call or a natural noise. So these primitive signals gradually became more standardized in a community, and over time repeated sounds got linked to particular meanings, and that's the seed of a word. So for most words, the link between sound and meaning is arbitrary. There's no inherent reason why dog, chien, or Inu all means the same thing. The communities simply agreed implicitly agree that a certain sound pattern preferred to a certain concept. However, there are some exceptions. I'm talking about onomatopoeia, so words whose sound mimic the thing, like a buzz for a bee or a meow for a cat, sound symbolism. Certain sounds tend to be associated with certain qualities. For instance, gl in English often relates to light. We can see this in words such as glow, glitter, glare. So how specific sounds got attached to specific meanings? So several overlapping processes likely played a role. So we have, I can think about 6 different processes. The first will be imitation, like copying natural sounds, like we talked about onomatopoeia earlier, or human noises. Metaphor, like reusing a word from one context in another. For instance, we said the head of a person, and we associate it with the head of a table. Metonymy, which is a process that uses something closely related to mean the whole, like we say the crown to say the monarchy, for instance. We also have reduction and change, which are long phrases. Long phrases get shortened over time until they become a single word. For example, we used to say God be with you to say goodbye, and this long sentence shortened in time with goodbye. We also have processes such as borrowing, which is the process of taking words from other languages and adapting them. And we have a final process, which is a shift in the meaning. So a word originally meaning can drift dramatically over time, over centuries. For instance, we know that in English, girl once meant child of either sex. But now girl specifically means a child from the feminine sex. So the big mystery is the real why this sound got attached to that meaning in the earliest day is largely lost to time. Without writing, spoken language leaves no archaeological trace, and most researchers think it was a combination of random choice, arbitrary signs that stuck by repetition, iconic association when a sound resembles or evokes the meaning, and cultural transmission, passing it to the next generation until it became just a word. The earliest words probably felt more like nicknames for things, invented on the spot, sometimes from imitation, sometimes just from playful sounds. But they stuck when enough people used them in the same way. Over many generations, those proto-words evolved, split, merged, and gave rise to the massive vocabularies we have now. To give you an example, I'm going to use the word bear, the animal, in English. Its history is especially interesting and shows both the sound meaning mystery and how people deliberately change words. English doesn't call a bear by its real name because people were afraid it would hear them, and that's a very important point. So the oldest known form for bear in PIE, we're just talking the language family I was talking about earlier. In PIE, the word for bear was something like artkos. So I apologize for my pronunciation. It is probably not correct, but again, I was not alive at the time, and I don't think anyone was. So again, this is a reconstructed language, so we assume that the word used for bear was artkos. So the word artkos survived in Greek. It became artkos, and in Latin, ursus. And in modern words, so we have, for instance, in English, the word Arctic, which actually literally means the bear region. It is actually connected to the constellation. So we don't know why the sound kos was chosen, but it might have been partly imitating a kind of growl sound, like sound, or it was just arbitrary. And early Germanic languages, which are the ancestors of English and German, replaced this old root with an entirely different word that was bero. And bero probably came from a root meaning brown, the color. So it means literally the brown one. So why? This is because of superstition. So people in some cultures believed speaking the true name of dangerous animals could summon them. So they used a euphemism instead. This was also true for wolves, snakes, tigers in China, wild boars. They used euphemism to avoid saying the actual name. So over generations, bero became bear in English, which also gave birth to bear in German, björn in Swedish, and the original meaning of bero, brown, got lost. The word became the name of the animal, and we couldn't remember why we used bero. And the old root, kos, survived elsewhere, in Greek and Latin, but in English it's only found in scientific and or poetic borrowings, like the word Arctic I was talking about. This is also interesting to note that we have the same phenomenon in Russian, because bear in Russian is medved, and medved actually means the one that knows about honey, the one that looks for honey. Another way of not saying the actual word. So this is the end of the video. I hope you liked it. I will try to cover more videos about etymology. I just wanted to show you how interesting the etymology of a word can be, and I love it because it's for me it's a memory. It's a memory of us, who we are now, and I believe this is very important to conserve this memory and to pass it to the next generation, because this is what defines us as humans, and we must remember where we come from, and why we are, and who we are today, and why we're using the words we're using today. Okay, I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.